I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes.
WNBA head coach Stephanie White has just launched a blistering attack that has sent shockwaves through the basketball world, and what she revealed about the league's failure to protect Caitlin Clark has completely exposed the growing crisis facing the WNBA's integrity and officiating standards. What happened during the Fever's matchup against the Liberty wasn't just bad officiating, it looked like deliberate sabotage, all caught on camera. Stephanie White's fiery post-game comments laid bare the growing concern. The league's biggest star, Caitlin Clark, is being targeted. From the opening tip, Clark took hit after hit with no calls, while similar contact sent Liberty players to the line. Analysts were stunned, saying, "They're literally just running around hacking her." The worst came in the final moments. Clark was fouled multiple times on a key possession, and still no whistle. The footage doesn't lie, and fans everywhere saw the bias for what it was. There's one foul, there's two fouls. Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the fourth time on her arm, the replay analysis revealed. Multiple fouls on the play, multiple fouls. She hacks her across the wrist as she's reaching to try to slap the ball away, and it was just an arm hack, just a hack. The visual evidence was undeniable. Clark absorbed contact that would have resulted in flagrant fouls for any other player, yet the referees swallowed the whistle and allowed New York to escape with an undeserved victory. Clark's immediate reaction said everything. Arms out, yelling in disbelief, she confronted the officials who had just robbed her team of victory. But the wildest part, the refs wouldn't even look her in the eye. The cowardice was shocking, even by WNBA officiating standards. But if you think the final play was the worst of it, you haven't heard the most outrageous part yet. The statistical evidence reveals systematic corruption that goes far beyond isolated missed calls. The Indiana Fever this season has a discrepancy of minus 31 when it comes to free throws. The shocking numbers reveal. That's right, this season the Fever are minus 31 in free throw opportunities. That is a staggering gap in a league where just a few possessions often decide games. The Liberty Fever game perfectly exemplified this bias. New York attempted 32 free throws compared to Indiana's pathetic 15 attempts, more than double in what should have been an evenly officiated contest. This wasn't competitive balance. This was organized theft happening in broad daylight. The Liberty were getting touch fouls while Caitlin and her teammates were getting body checked with no whistle. It felt like two different rule books were in play. Witnesses described the systematic favoritism. The pattern of abuse extends far beyond this single game. From the moment Clark entered the WNBA, she's been subjected to treatment that would be considered criminal assault in any other context. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a WNBA court, it was obvious she was going to be treated differently. The physicality ramped up, players were taking extra liberties, and the referees, they swallowed their whistles. The documented evidence shows. The Kennedy Carter incident remains. The hit heard round the league. Caitlin Clark got blindsided off the ball in what was clearly a frustration foul, and what did the refs do? They called it a common foul, not a flagrant. Even in the playoffs, the systematic targeting continued. When Caitlin Clark is shooting a layup and she's in the air, and Marina Mabrey commits a block, a hit on the arm, everything a blocking foul. She just comes late and is like, Caitlin's not getting a layup, jumps sideways into her, takes her arms out, knocks Caitlin on the ground, and then stops because she knows she's failed, and the referees are like, play on, play on. The corruption became so obvious that you could make an entire documentary out of the missed calls alone. This isn't isolated incompetence, this is systematic persecution of the league's biggest star. But wait, there's more. Stephanie White had finally seen enough. After 4 games of watching her superstar get mauled without protection, the Fever coach delivered a statement that has left WNBA officials scrambling for cover. "I thought she got fouled," White began, her voice trembling with barely controlled fury. "I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. You know, a minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim, and the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing that it doesn't go both ways, or It hasn't gone both ways. This isn't something coaches want to do. No one likes to call out the refs, but when it gets this blatant, you don't have a choice. At some point, you have to speak up. You have to let the league know this kind of nonsense isn't just being noticed. It's not going to be tolerated. White's explosive press conference represented a complete breakdown in diplomatic relations between the Fever and WNBA officiating. Her willingness to risk fines and league discipline to defend her players sends a clear message that the systematic bias has reached intolerable levels. Stephanie White has lost her mind over it, and I don't blame her. At least she's standing up for the team, making it a public issue. So now the WNBA is at least on notice that everybody knows it now, that this team is not getting any calls. Even Clark herself, typically diplomatic in public, couldn't hide her frustration completely. When asked about the final play, her response was loaded with barely concealed anger. Had some tough ones where my arm was getting grabbed, but whatever. Aaliyah Boston's quiet frustration said it all. We don't really have a choice because they're going to call what they want to call. When players expect bias, the game loses its fairness. New fans brought in by Caitlin Clark know basketball, and they know when officiating is bad. Now they're seeing it happen live, and they're not staying quiet. Social media is full of clips showing Clark getting hacked with no calls while her opponents get free throws for almost nothing. The WNBA had a golden chance to grow, but instead of winning over new fans, they're pushing them away with sloppy, unfair officiating. The Fever Liberty game had everything fans love: stars, drama, a close score. But the focus shifted to the refs after a string of missed and biased calls. It's not just about Caitlin Clark or Indiana anymore. Players and fans across the league are fed up. With millions watching, every mistake is now under a spotlight. Coach Stephanie White's strong words showed just how serious the problem has become. The league is at a crossroads. Fix the officiating now, or risk losing the trust of players and fans. If they don't act fast, they could lose the momentum they've worked so hard to build.
Allowing defenders to get physical with her without calling fouls, to bully her instead of accepting and embracing her league-changing, league-lifting impact.
Caitlin Clark has just been thrust into the center of a new scandal that has left the basketball world stunned. And what Saturday's footage revealed about the referee's treatment of her has completely shattered the WNBA's image of fairness and integrity. What happened during the final seconds of Indiana's heartbreaking 90-88 loss to New York wasn't just bad officiating. It was deliberate sabotage caught on camera, and the evidence is so damning that it's impossible to explain away as human error or missed calls. The explosive moment came with 2.2 seconds remaining and everything on the line. Clark had the ball at half court after receiving an inbound pass from Sophie Cunningham, with the Fever trailing by just 2 points and needing a miracle to force overtime or steal an improbable victory. As Clark drove toward the basket, Liberty defender Natasha Cloud made contact that was so obvious, so egregious, and so undeniably a foul that even casual fans watching at home immediately recognized the blown call. Cloud pushed her shoulder directly into Clark's body, disrupting her shot attempt and knocking the ball loose in a move that would have resulted in free throws in any fairly officiated game. The footage captures Clark's disbelief as she throws her arms up, yelling, "You gotta be kidding me!" Then turns to the ref and asks, "Are you serious?" Summing up what millions of fans were thinking. But this wasn't just one missed call. The post-game stats tell a bigger story. A -31 free throw gap, with Indiana shooting just 15 compared to New York's 46. For a team that constantly attacks the rim, that kind of disparity is almost unheard of. It points to something deeper than bad officiating. Coach Stephanie White's furious post-game comments may be the strongest public criticism of WNBA refs in league history. "I thought she got fouled," White said, her voice trembling with barely controlled anger. "I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us these last few games. A -31 free throw discrepancy. I might be able to understand that if we're chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. The disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable." White's comments represent the first time a WNBA coach has directly accused referees of systematic bias, using the word egregious to describe what she's witnessing. When a professional coach reaches the point where she's willing to risk fines and league discipline to speak out about corruption, you know the situation has reached a crisis point. The most damning part of White's statement came when she addressed the consistency issue. We're not looking for a change. We're just looking for consistency. The disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. It's disappointing that it doesn't go both ways, but we can't allow that to consume us. This wasn't a coach complaining about isolated bad calls. This was a professional acknowledging a systematic pattern of bias that has been building over multiple games. The phrase, "it doesn't go both ways," is particularly revealing, suggesting that the referees are applying different standards to different teams. What makes this corruption even more devastating is the timing and stakes involved. Clark was on the verge of making WNBA history with what would have been her 11th game with 20 points and 10 assists, a feat that would have set a new league record. The missed foul call didn't just cost the Fever a potential victory, it robbed Clark of a chance to etch her name in the record books once again. The difference in how Caitlin Clark is officiated compared to other stars is now so blatant that even Liberty fans were uncomfortable. Videos from the arena show supporters from both teams reacting in disbelief to the non-call, with some Liberty fans even defending Clark's right to fair treatment. But the issue goes far beyond one missed foul. All game long, Clark took hits with no calls, while soft fouls were repeatedly called against the Fever. Footage shows clear contact that would earn most stars a trip to the line, but not Clark. When she tried to speak to the refs, they dismissed her completely, showing a level of disregard that felt intentional, not accidental. Aaliyah Boston's post-game comments revealed how the systematic bias has affected the entire team's mentality. When it comes to accepting the calls, it's like we don't really have a choice, because they're going to call what they want to call. So for us, we just have to finish through contact. If we don't get it, we don't get it, but we have to give ourselves the best opportunity to get that basket. Boston's quiet acceptance of biased officiating highlights a major failure in WNBA refereeing. When players expect unfair treatment, the game's integrity is lost. Saturday's non-call sparked a firestorm online, with fans flooding social media to document the bias and demand action. Some predicted referees would be replaced by AI, while others flat out accused them of refusing to uphold fairness. One fan summed it up best: "We read about killing the golden goose as kids. The WNBA is doing it in real life by letting their most-watched player get mauled game after game. This situation underscores a major problem. The WNBA is allowing clear, repeated bias against its biggest star to continue unchecked, risking the very player driving record ratings, sold-out arenas, and a surge in popularity." Despite Caitlin Clark's massive impact on the league's growth, officials keep targeting her, and it's starting to affect not just her performance, but the Fever's season as a whole. At 2-2, Indiana is off to a better start than last year, but the mental toll of unfair treatment is visible. Saturday's non-call, broadcast live on CBS, exposed the issue to millions. Multiple angles showed clear contact, yet 3 referees ignored it, something that looks far more like a pattern than a mistake. The non-call with 2.2 seconds left adds a deeper layer to the controversy. In the game's most critical moment, officials ignored a clear foul on the league's biggest star, making the decision feel intentional. Clark's stat line, 18 points, 10 assists, 10 turnovers, and 2 for 11 from 3, shows a player battling not just her opponents, but also consistent bias. Her frustration was clear and impacted her play. The bigger issue is the league's integrity. The bias is now too obvious to ignore. Coach White's bold criticism marks a historic moment, openly challenging the fairness of WNBA officiating. The WNBA now faces a turning point: address the clear bias or risk losing credibility and fans. Saturday's footage leaves no room for denial. Officiating errors were blatant and damaging. For Caitlin Clark, this is just the latest in a troubling pattern of unfair treatment, with her visible frustration showing she's had enough. The Fever were in position to beat the defending champs, but a mix of poor execution and biased calls handed New York an undeserved win. The evidence is undeniable, and the corruption is now public. The league must act or let its integrity continue to crumble.
A timeout for Indiana. The screening action down low. Clark has to get open. 1 second left. Clark doesn't get the shot off. Cloud locks her up, and New York comes into Indianapolis and takes the checkered flag.
Caitlin Clark is used to the spotlight, but what unfolded in the final seconds of the Indiana Fever's matchup against the New York Liberty left fans stunned, her coach furious, and the basketball world in shock. It was supposed to be another chance for Clark to shine. With just under 3 seconds on the clock and her team trailing by 2, she received the inbounds pass, took a dribble, and rose up to take a potential game-winning three-pointer. But before she could even get the shot off, Natasha Cloud stripped the ball away. No whistle, no foul. Just the sound of the buzzer echoing through Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Clark stood frozen, arms raised in disbelief. She swung a fist in the air, then turned to the referees, searching for an explanation that never came. The Fever had lost, 90-88. "I thought she got fouled," said Fever head coach Stephanie White after the game, and she didn't stop there. "I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games, a -31 free throw discrepancy, and I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim." White's frustration wasn't just about a single missed call. She and the team believed the officiating had been consistently lopsided for several games in a row. According to her, it wasn't just one play, it was a pattern. And it wasn't just that final no call. The Fever had several other key moments late in the game where they felt wronged. They argued that Cloud had also fouled DeWanna Bonner on a blocked shot just moments earlier. Then came the controversial whistle on Lexi Hull, which gave Sabrina Ionescu 2 free throws with 2.9 seconds left. Free throws that turned out to be the game winners. Without a timeout left to challenge, Indiana was helpless to stop the cascade of what they believed were unfair calls. Clark, who finished with 18 points, 10 assists, and 10 turnovers, had her struggles early. She turned the ball over 9 times in the first 3 quarters, unable to find rhythm against a swarming Liberty defense. But like the superstar she is, she eventually found her spark, bringing the Fever back into the game with a 4-point play and a stunning 33-foot buzzer beater to close the third quarter. By the fourth, the Fever had stormed back from a 15-point deficit to take a 12-point lead. They were poised to upset the defending champions until everything unraveled. Jonquel Jones, quiet in the first half, came alive. "Sometimes I did get out of game, and I kind of felt myself slipping into that at halftime," Jones said. "So yeah, it's just going out there playing, trusting my teammates." She finished with 26 points and 12 rebounds, outscoring the entire Fever team 14-12 in the fourth quarter alone. Meanwhile, Natasha Cloud put together a stat line that included 16 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. Her defensive heroics in the final seconds were just the cherry on top. But Clark wasn't ready to condemn the refs outright after the game. When asked whether she believed she was fouled, she hesitated. "I don't know," she said. "I'd have to go back and watch." That level-headedness may have helped her maintain her composure, but her frustration was visible. As the final horn sounded, she was clearly shaken by the lack of a call that could have sent her to the line for 3 potential game-winning free throws. And from her coach's perspective, this wasn't just a tough loss, it was personal. "The disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable," White continued. "It's disappointing that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways." White's comments reflect a deeper issue many teams have raised about WNBA officiating, particularly when it comes to young or rising squads. With Clark being one of the biggest new stars in the league, expectations around fairness and accountability are even higher. "There's a system to making sure that we can send stuff in and communicate our grievances, so to speak," White noted. "I don't know that I ever feel like the system works. We're not looking for a change. We're just looking for consistency." The numbers back up her concerns. The Liberty shot 25 of 32 from the free throw line. The Fever, just 11 out of 15. That kind of discrepancy becomes especially glaring in a game decided by just 2 points. Despite the controversy, Clark took a broader perspective when reflecting on the team's performance. "We are 2 possessions from being 4-0, she said, "but there were so many little areas of this game we could have improved. It definitely stings, but this is what's going to make us better at the end of the year." That mindset might be what carries this team through the ups and downs of the season, but for now, the sting of this particular loss is hard to ignore. Not just because of what happened, but because of what it represents. The WNBA is at a pivotal moment. With rising stars like Caitlin Clark bringing unprecedented attention to the league, every game and every call carries more weight. And when fans feel like the rules aren't being enforced fairly, the backlash is immediate. Social media exploded after the game, with fans and analysts alike calling out the no call on Clark and criticizing the officiating overall. Videos of the final play circulated widely, with countless viewers insisting the contact was clear.